Design patterns. These are the popular design patterns which we use day-to-day life. One is MVC, MVVM, delegation, singleton, observer, and target action. Okay, MVC here is the most popular one earlier. Now people are using MVVM or some other design patterns. There is a Viper, there are some other, but most of the time people choose to use either MVC or MVVM. MVC is useful for a kind of a medium level or small level application, and MVVM is useful for large applications. We're having delegation basically to communicate between two objects, and singleton to share the data across the application. Observer is again for communication, and target action is also communication. Basically, the design patterns are classified into two types. One is architectural design patterns, another one is communication design pattern, or just design patterns. Design patterns are classified into two categories. We can say architectural. Architectural design patterns and general design pattern. Basically architectural are useful to segregate or modularize your application. Modularize in the sense how many modules should be there, how the communication between the modules should happen. Basically, how you divide your application, how do you architect your application, what are the different components you need. In single application, you will have different components. One is related to the network, another one is the user related to the user information like data, another one is user interface. These are the different modules or different components of the application. How these are architectured, whether everything should be in one view controller or it should be in different view controllers or different classes. How the application is segregated to effectively communicate between each component. The architectural design patterns are MVC is one thing, MVVM is one another thing, MVP, Viper. These are the architectural design patterns. But most popular are MVC and MVVM. And communication design pattern, general design patterns. General design patterns which comes like singleton, delegation, remaining all comes under communication design patterns or general design patterns, target action, observer. These are basics which you need to understand about the pattern and design pattern. Design patterns are two categories. One is architectural design patterns, another one is general design patterns or communication design patterns. Architectural design patterns helps us to segregate our application into different components, and communication design patterns help us to how the segregated components communicate effectively each other. These two are the design pattern types categories. Okay, here most important stuff which by default have been using for years is MVC, model view controller. Model view controller. So for whatever we have used is model view controller only. model view controller. Let me create one application here again. Kind of model means data, we can say. Model means data. View means user interface. Controller is mediator. Mediator between model and view. This is all about MVC, model view controller. Model means data. View means view, which is user interface. Controller means mediator between the model and view. Here, model and view directly cannot interact. Here, model and view cannot interact directly. MVC, singleton, delegation, observer, notification center. Notification center is actually not a design pattern. It is basically used for communication. Target action, MVM, MVP, Viper, factory. These are the various design patterns which we are having. MVC is the model view controller design pattern, plays major role in iOS application development. Model is data or database where you get the data. User interface, we use user interface. Controller is the one which acts as mediator between model and view. Controller contains the business logic. Controller contains business logic. Actually, in MVC, it contains everything. The controller contains everything. Model and view do not communicate directly. Based on the user actions on the view, controller notifies these interactions to the model and fetches the respective data from the model. Basically, data model is data or database. When user clicks on show information, then the action will be triggered on controller. Controller means our view controller file. There, the view controller communicates with the database layer. Database layer means model layer and fetches the information. If something is changed on the database also, that can be notified again onto the view. Through controller, everything should be done through the controller. Controller is a mediator where view and model will not interact directly. Advantages, object to use. If you want to use the same business logic, you can use. If you want to use the same kind of UI in another application, you can use. If you want to use the same kind of data models, architecture of the data models, data structure, you can use. Object reuse. Independent object, if any changes needed, we just need to change the respective object without disturbing others. If you want to modify something on the database, you can modify that on the data model component. You don't need to do anything on the view or controller. If you write all these things in single view controller, if something is changed, you will have to interact, you will have to disturb all three because everything is in single view controller. Okay, let's see the example for this. Let me create a model. My first model is like kind of student. We have already created. We have already used this thing, student. Let me take this also as string. Student can read and write. Yeah, these are the two simple methods. Actually, this is what the model is. Model is data holder or data representation. Data representing the data. Here, let me create an object here. That student equal, let me create students. There are a couple of students here. Okay. This is the model. This model is the representation of the data. This is how I'm going to represent the influencer. Actual model, it is model representation actually. The model, my model contains name and roll number, etc. If you have separate database, that is also considered as model. Here, model is ready. Model is filling the information in the model. If you have table view, you can display that on the table view. Set the delegate and data source. Also implement the extension. We can whatever we did so far, same thing. That is what we have followed in model we control on the MVC modeling. Here table view delegate. Here table data source. Here number of rows in section. Let me return students dot count one cell for row index path. Guard let cell equal to table view dot dq region cell with identifier, which is cell yes written table cell. You can make a fatal error. Fatal means simply it gives a crash, producing a crash if something went wrong. Actually, when if it is failed to return a cell, means it is actually error. We're always expecting a cell from the table view. If it is not returning, means returning empty is not a good idea. You can crash it immediately so that you will get crash and you will immediately you will fix that in development itself. Okay. Cell dot let a student equal to students index path. So cell dot text label dot text equal to a student dot name. Cell dot detail text label dot text equal to it is integer, right? Let's put that integer string a student dot roll number return cell. I also want to edit like can edit row index path. Yes, you can edit editing style for row index path. And have written delete commit editing style. Commit editing style. If it is delete editing style equal to if user swiped and tapped on the delete, we need to delete the object students dot remove at index path dot row and table view reload data. Okay, this is all about MVC. We are having model separate file to represent the information, and this is actually model here. Database, data provider, we can say data provider or database. This is actually a model. The entire thing is controller, and user interface is this. This is the user interface. Run it. Based on the operations you perform on the view, those operations, those interactions are handled by the controller, and the information is pulled from the database like model and represents that. I'm just deleting this. When you delete it, what happens? This event is notified to the controller. Controller notifies to the data model. Data model, something is deleted. Just delete that and update the user interface again. Okay, this is what we have already seen. Whatever we have seen so far is model view controller only. Okay, let's see MVVM. I'm just converting this into MVVM. MVVM is basically one more additional component. MVVM is a highly usable design pattern to avoid massive view controller. If you see the MVC, everything is here only. The data is here, and the operations on the data here. We are removing here, and displaying user interface logic is here. The controller itself containing model and view logic, even business logic kind of this, deleting, adding something. This is called this has become massive view controller. Since this is simple application, it is little clear. If you have many functionals on the single view controller, then this becomes massive. So to avoid such scenarios, they have come up with a new design pattern that is called MVVM, model view model. Model means data we know, view means user interface we know. View model is data which is required to the view. Data which is required to the view. When someone asks you for the MVC example, you need to show, you need to write like this. You need to take two objects. Okay. This is model. This is view. This is controller. Controller is the mediator between model and view. This is database DB. This is controller. And this is view. Database, the model and view cannot interact directly. Okay. These two can be interacted by using the mediator, which is controller. Okay, this is what the example diagram which you need to show them. And coming to the MVVM. This is model. This is view. View model. Model. View model supplies the information to the view. Model means data, right? View model means view data. Data that is required to display on the user interface on the view. Okay. Here model is representation of data. Model actually used in the view model now, not in the controller. Whereas controller view controller class we have, right? That is actually view only. That only deals with the user interface logic, not the business logic. Now the business logic, adding object, adding, removing, or calculating anything will be done on the view model, not on the controller. This is view. This is view model. View model is the data holder for the view, we can say. Let me write down. Now, the controller is having everything, right? The student object we have here, and we are filling the information. We are manipulating the information. We are performing operation. We are performing operations on the students in the view control only. Now I want to segregate the same thing into the view model, like MVVM. Let me take new view controller. Cocoa touch. Let's say MVVM view controller. I'm going to have the same information here. And I just convert the same thing into this view controller. This is one thing. I'm just making the same again. And here MVVM. That's it. Now I have just taken another class and just copy pasted the same thing which we have in the view controller, which we followed. All right. Now I'm just changing. I'm just copying and pasting this one also, and change the class name. Class name is MVVM, right? MVVM view controller, and set the derivative and data source. Those are already set. Okay. Now this is the initial view controller. I'll make this as initial view controller. Now this is the initial view controller. Install the same logic I have here in view controller and MVVM view controller. Okay, let's run it. Now I am not going to use this because for your reference, I'm just keeping the same. Okay, same thing is displayed here. Let me change the color of this. So okay, this is MVVM view controller. Now let me convert. This is actually in MVC. Let me convert this into MVVM. Okay, let me do that. Take a Swift class here. View model, or else MVVM view controller view model. View controller name and view model. You need to take this as a class. MVVM view controller view model. This is our class where whatever information you have here, just take that here. Basically, we are just segregating the data layer, data part of the view controller of MVC into MVVM. Fun. It contains init method. In init method, what I do is I'll just write this. I'm just removing this. In init method, I'm just filling the information. Now we need to have two methods. One is delete at index int. Also, we need, if you want to add any objects, you can add. At present, only we are deleting it, right? So what I do is students dot remove at index. Now here in view controller, we need to take an object of view model now. Let me take a view model equal to MVVM view model. I'm just creating object of view model now, and I don't want to use directly the student.count. Want to use view model dot students.count. Everything is now on view model. View model dot students.count. Here, while returning also, you will not perform operation on the students. Okay, you need to ask view model remove delete the object at index path dot row. We have just replaced the students object from here with the MVVM. We are initializing it. When you initialize it, what happens? What is this? When you initialize it, what happens? We are creating the students here, and the students are ready after initialization. Now ask the view model only. View model, how many number of students you have? View model delete. View model, how many number of students you have? View model delete object. View model delete object. Even you can use subscript here like a short way of accessing. Yeah, students here, number of students. We can have a property here where number of students into return students.count. Here we should not use any students there generally actually. Students, yeah, fine. Here, instead of using this, we can ask view model number of students. View model number of students. Even also here also we can ask view model give me object at index. Object at index. Object at index int which returns a student. The return students of index. Same thing. You don't need to do anything here. Number. What is that? Object at index for that. Okay. Same result again, but here we have segregated. What is this? The data layer, data which is provided to the view. Into the view model. View model is data provided for the view. Now what happened here? The business logic is not there. There is no delete object actually. Delete logic student.delete is not there. Okay, here we are asking view model. View model delete something. Delete some object. View model delete some object. We are calling view model number of objects. We are nowhere interacting with the students. We are everything. We are depending on the user interface logic is here, and the business logic which is related to the data, which is related to the data of view is in the view model. Hope this is clear. In this case, what happens if you want to test the data, you can test it here. You can test view model separately. You can test view controller separately. Okay. In this case, what happened? Everything is here only. To test the business logic, to test the business logic, it is along with view logic. If you want to test removing something, again we have here table view, user interface components. This is not easy to test. Testing business logic involves testing UI logic. In this case, testing business logic does not involve any UI logic. You can create object of this and you can simply test MVVM view model object. You can create controller object, and everything is related to the view only. Business logic we don't deal here. MVVM is model, view model. This is our model. Here, if you see, the model are reused in different view controllers. One is view controller and MVVM view controller. Models are reused. And view model can be tested easily. That is the benefit of benefit over MVC. Here, view model is separate component where you can simply test. View simply contains the view or view controller simply contains the user interface logic. Okay, three different components, MV, VM. Clear? Any doubts here?